Muncha, Muncha, Muncha by Candace Fleming and G. Brian Karras. For years, Mr. McGreely dreamed of planting a garden. He dreamed of getting his hands dirty, of growing yummy vegetables and gobbling them all up. But he never once tried until... "This spring," said Mr. McGreely, "this spring, by golly, I am going to plant a garden." What kind of store is he standing in front of? So he hoed and he sowed and he watched his garden grow. Lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, yum, yum, yummy, said Mr. McGreely. I'll soon fill my tummy with crisp, fresh veggies. So here he is planting his garden, but I see someone watching him. Do you see someone watching him? But one night when the sun went down and the moon came up, 3 hungry bunnies appeared. Tippy, 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 pat. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Oh no, what are they doing? The next morning, Mr. McGreely saw his gnawed sprouts and he was angry. So he built a small wire fence around his vegetable garden. There, he declared, no bunnies can get into my garden now. Who's watching him? Thumbs up if you think the fence is going to keep the bunnies out, and thumbs down if you think it's not. The sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy, 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 pat. Spring hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Did the wire fence work? It doesn't look like it. The next morning when Mr. McGreely saw his nibbled leaves and gnawed sprouts, he was really angry. So he built a tall wooden wall behind the small wire fence all around his vegetable garden. He huffed, those flop ears will never get over it. No bunnies can get into my garden now. So here's the wire fence, and then outside of that he built a really tall wooden wall that the bunnies could not get over. But look who's watching him. Thumbs up if you think the wall will keep the bunnies out, and thumbs down if you think it won't. The sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy, 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 pat, dig, scrabble, scratch, 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 spring hurdle, dash, dash, dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. Did the wall work? No, it did not. Did they go over the wall? How did they get in this time? The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was really, really angry. So he made a deep, wet trench outside the tall wooden wall, behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. Ha! He snorted. Those pufftails can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny can get into my garden now. All right, Thumbs up if you think the deep wet trench is going to keep the bunnies out, and thumbs down if you think it won't. The sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy 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 pat, dive paddle, splash splash splash, dig scrabble, scratch scratch scratch, spring hurdle, dash dash dash. Muncha, muncha, muncha. How did they get in this time? Those silly bunnies. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his chomped blossoms, his chewed stems, his nibbled leaves, and his gnawed sprouts, he was furious. And furious is a really fancy big word for very, very angry. So he hammered and blocked and sawed and stalked and drilled and filled and trapped and locked, and he built a huge, enormous thing before the deep wet trench, outside the tall wooden wall, behind the small wire fence, all around his vegetable garden. "I've outsmarted those twitch whiskers for sure," he said. "They can't get through it. They can't get under it. They can't get over it. No bunny, no way, no how can get into my vegetable garden." So he built this big thing all around the outside. And he has locks and lights and all sorts of stuff to protect his garden. Look who's watching. Thumbs up if you think his new structure is going to keep the bunnies out. Thumbs down if you think they're still going to get in. The sun went down and the moon came up, and tippy tippy stop! 3 hungry bunnies looked and smelled and touched the huge, enormous thing before them, and tippy 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 pat, the bunnies hopped away. Did they get in? Not this time. The next morning, when Mr. McGreely saw his untouched vegetables, he was happy. "I beat the bunnies," he whooped, and he did a jiggly wiggly victory dance. Then he climbed over, jumped across, squeezed between, and crawled under until he reached his vegetable garden. He said, "At last." Smacking his lips, he picked and pulled up lettuce, carrots, peas, tomatoes, and with his basket overflowing, he reached inside for something yummy. So here he is. He's gonna pick his veggies, but look really closely at the basket. What do you think is in his basket? Muncha, muncha, muncha! Oh no! The bunnies were in his basket. They did get in. So they decided to share. The end.